what's up everyone, War Brothers Collectibles here. Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the channel. So I've just sat down and watched Exorcist II, the Heretic, the new Arrow video release that I bought on Blu-ray. I actually sat down and watched the 103-minute international version. Now, I've only ever seen the 118-minute original premiere version on the original Blu-ray box set, which is that one right there. And that's the only version of this film that I've ever known, just the full 118-minute version. So I was very curious to see what the 103 international version had to offer. And I've got to say, it really made me think of Halloween 6 in terms of the theatrical cut and the original producer's cut, because obviously the producer's cut of Halloween 6 explains more and as it's more of a complete experience, whereas the theatrical cut really, although I quite like the film, both versions, the theatrical cut of Halloween 6 is a butchered, choppy, poorly edited version of the producer's cut, essentially. They shot new material here, but in terms of The Exorcist 2, the 103-minute international version, the story plays out the same as the 118-minute version, but obviously there is lots of cuts. Things are trimmed right back to obviously make it a quicker experience, but it's just such a mess. Like, I wouldn't say I was disappointed, because the film is what it is, and you can only work with what you have available in a sense. But the original premiere version at 118 minutes, that to me is, it's a more complete experience. Like, there's more exposition of things and you have more clearer understanding of what is actually happening. The international version at 103 minutes, dialogue is cut right down, and the editing is just so choppy and so jarring in places. Like, they'll be talking about something, the dialogue will cut, and then you're straight away thrown into another scene, no build up or set up here. You're just like, oh my God, right, where are we here? And then you've got to kind of like adjust to that. It's just the editing is really poorly done on that international version, and I just wasn't a fan of it at all. There is some alternate scenes here, so there's an alternate opening of the film. So this version that I watched, the 103-minute international version, it has a different opening. It has a monologue from Richard Burton, which is pretty cool, and I quite enjoyed that, and it kind of recaps the original film, and then it does give a little bit of backstory of Father Merrin, that he exorcised the boy in Africa. It kind of did all that in the opening scene, rather than I think in the premiere version, the 118-minute version, that all gets explained later on in the movie. So the opening, I didn't really mind. I didn't mind that alternate opening, and I'm all for more dialogue by Richard Burton, because he does deliver that epic Shakespearean performance, and I admire him a lot as an actor. So that I didn't mind too much, the alternate opening. I'm not an expert on the cuts of the film, so I could get it slightly wrong here, but as far as I'm aware, between the two versions, certain scenes were like rearranged in the order that they happened. As far as I can remember, I could be wrong with that, but one or two scenes happened at different places in the movie depending on which version you watch, which was kind of strange. And then, as I say, dialogue and exposition is cut right down in that 103-minute version, to the point where it's like, what the hell's going on here? I know I'm not an expert on the film, as I say, but I have seen the 118 premiere version quite a few times. So I was mouthing along the dialogue, and then it cut, and I was like, oh, so there's no more of that. And it was just, and I just did not like this version of the film. Halloween 6 theatrical cut has its problems, but it also has its positives. Like, it's highly entertaining. It's a lot more quicker and faster paced, I suppose, and there's a lot more interesting death scenes in the theatrical cut of Halloween 6. But as I say, it's a trade-off between, do you want more gore, more special effects, or do you want a coherent story that you can actually follow? In terms of Halloween 6, by the way, I do actually prefer the producer's cut, but I don't mind either version of that film. But as I say, in terms of The Exorcist II The Heretic, just not a fan of that 103-minute international version at all here. I know people are going to say, why are you defending The Exorcist 2? But I do got to say on this channel, I do enjoy this film. Films are subjective, and I do enjoy The Exorcist 2. I watch it more so than any of the other sequels. Also, the ending of the 103-minute version is much more faster, as I say, and things just kind of happen, and then just as things have settled down, it's like freeze frame, bam, the film's over, roll credits, before you even really have time to process what you've actually just watched and what's actually just happened in those final moments. Whereas in the other version of the film, the 118-minute version, things kind of slow down towards the end. You have time, you have that breathing space, you have time to process what you've just seen, and there is scenes of dialogue at the end where the characters exchange final words, and then Richard Burton goes off into the sunset, if you will, with Linda Blair as Father Lamont is now Reagan's protector. In a way, that's the way that film ends. But the other version, the international version, just was like, right, freeze frame, bam, done, roll credits. And that was again jarring as well, and that in a way is more confusing because you don't have that breathing space and time to actually process what's just happened. So yeah, I've got to actually say that in terms of both cuts of the films, the 118-minute version, which is, as I say, on the box set that I've only ever watched, is far superior in my opinion. I was just not a fan of that 103-minute international cut, although I did enjoy the alternate opening, and there is extra scenes, or should I say alternate scenes, when Richard Burton is talking to the Cardinal. A lot of dialogue is taken out of that, but there is an alternate scene put in, and it's like a heated argument, which was kind of cool. That was footage that I'd never seen before, but again, that whole scene is just butchered and cut right down anyway, so there's not really much to go on. It's just all the dialogue's kind of cut short, and then you have that heated argument, and if you weren't really aware of either version of the film you just watched, whichever one, you wouldn't know the difference anyway here. But as the overall experience, I'm more of a fan of the 118-minute version, which is on this box set, as I've said. And the overall experience was a kind of a Halloween 6 kind of experience here. There was no drastic reshoots, as I say. It is the same film, it's just butchered and cut right back. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on the 103-minute version, the international version of The Exorcist II The Heretic. If you're going to watch the film, guys, I would say go straight for the 118-minute premiere version. It is more a rounded, fuller, more coherent experience. And please leave a comment down below if you've seen both versions of this film. Which one do you prefer, or do you absolutely despise The Exorcist 2? Because, you know, it is regarded as one of the worst movies of all time here, but I can find merit in the film that I quite enjoy. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Definitely give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and please consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you soon in the next one.